Zhao Jiji, the daughter of a general, came to the temple. The girl was fascinated by the beauty around her. She noticed that men were standing near a newly made sign, and she wondered what was going on there. There were new calligraphies, which meant that the emperor praised someone and therefore wrote hieroglyphs and sold them. The girl did not like that they were traveling too slowly, and the girl asked the coachman to go as fast as possible. The man hit the horses, and they ran as fast as they could. The girl was outraged that the men were discussing the emperor, who was home once a day and working all the time. Zhao Jiji was outraged that the men admired the fact that the emperor had written a couple of characters and was selling them. The assistant asked the lady to keep her voice down and calm down. The girl realized that she was at the temple of the weaver. The general's daughter called the assistant and said that she would ask for marriage. A little girl came up to her and offered to buy the flowers that her mother had just picked. The girl said that then she would be lucky in marriage. Zhao Jiji told her assistant to buy all the flowers. The girls went to the temple, where there were many young girls. Zhao Jiji looked at everything with great interest. She watched as the girl in front of her received the answer that her wish would come true. The lady believed that her wish would come true. She knelt down and began to ask for a good husband, to be noble, purposeful, and her mother-in-law and father-in-law to be lenient, but most importantly, he should be noble and honest, never lie desire. The girl promised that if everything came true, she would no longer sleep during needlework lessons, and every year she would bring 3 sprigs of balsam to the temple. The girl begged for her wish to come true. A 2 came down with an explanation of whether her wish would come true or not. The weaver's answer disappointed the girl. She asked the abbess of the temple that if she asked for marriage in her temple, the wish would come true. She had difficulty getting there, brought great gifts, and received an unsatisfactory letter. Zhao Jiji thought of sneaking to the weaver to talk to her personally. She cunningly pulled on the cloths hanging in the temple, and a boy who sent letters to girls who came to make wishes fell from the top. The girl ran after the boy, but did not catch him. She fell to the ground and pretended to twist her leg. The boy took pity on her and gave her a hand to help her up. But the girl was more cunning. She knocked him to the ground and screamed, "I got you." She wanted to take off his masked cap, but the man was stronger, and in a second she was in his place on the ground, and he was lying there holding her. They heard the assistant's voice, and the boy quickly got up and ran. The girls ran to Zhao Jiji and started to lift her up. She was looking into the distance where the boy had disappeared. The girl she had asked the weaver for was with her assistant. She had come to tell her that the owner was coming back. The 2 men were talking about what was happening in the emperor's court. The man in armor said that the emperor did not come out and write again. He sold the paired inscriptions to the weaver's shop. He pointed to the stand that carried the grief. It was the empress and the general, one on the left and the other on the outside, all supporting the emperor so that the stand did not sway. The 2 elevations must be the same. Last year, the Empress Dowager died. Until a new empress appears in the harem, the general has no one to rely on. The man in armor said that the emperor had been sent many portraits of noble brides because he was of an age to marry. The men's conversation was interrupted by Zhao Jiji, who ran to her father, whom she had not seen for a long time. The father immediately noticed that his daughter was even more beautiful than before and asked where she was last night when he returned. He emphasized that she could not do anything stupid on the other side of the yard. The woman handed Zhao Jiji a notebook and told him the news that a good man had already been found for the girl she had asked for. A young man who was a painter. His family was not rich, but he had built a good relationship with the emperor, which gave him a bright future. The girl took the notebook and compared the handwriting with the one on a letter she had received in the weaver's temple. After comparing the handwriting, she realized that it was written by the same person. Now she understood why she had received that bad message. Zhao Jiji told Ju not to worry, she would find a good match for her, but the girl replied that she did not want to get married. She wanted to be with her mistress always. Zhao Jiji sent her assistant to an artist to ask him to come and paint a portrait of her mistress. The guy wondered why a girl from such a noble family would ask his ordinary artist to come and paint her portrait, and to the back gate, as the girl said. But the assistant gave the man a thing and said that he himself decided whether to come or not. The guy came as he was invited. When the girl saw him, she smiled and said yes. She went to her place where she wanted her portrait painted. She looked at the young man. He caught her eye. She took her seat, and the young man introduced himself as a servant of Chen from the painting department. The hostess asked him to sit down and waited for the man's reaction to her voice and that he would pray on her. Chen sat down but did not look up. Zhao Zizhet asked why he did not look up at her and was told that he would look at her when he picked up the brush. But the girl said that she was not beautiful, and he looked up at her and said that she was not so beautiful. Zhao Jiji began to walk around the room and talk to Chen. She said that her personal assistant had called him and no one else in the courtyard knew that he was painting her portrait. But in fact, there were still armed guards standing at the door, waiting for her signal. The girl walked around the room and sat down. She said that her pose was the same as Madame Chen's. She wanted to be painted in the same way. But Chen said that her pose was completely different. He apologized and went over to her. Chen sat her down in a completely different way and told her that the figure of the woman in that painting was gentle and charming, and although her figure was far from the figure of the woman she wanted to be like, she was beautiful too. Zhao Jiji does not need to blindly imitate others. The landlady was furious. Her assistants were changing her clothes, and she was angry with Chen for saying she looked like a board. No matter how many poses Zhao Jiji tried, Chen said that was wrong. She went back to change her clothes. The next day, Chen started painting. Zhao Jiji noticed that he was looking at her for a very long time. Chen replied that he was looking at her carefully so that he could accurately transfer everything to the canvas. Ji said that the artist who had painted her before had only needed one quick glance to paint everything. On the third day, Gigi was already crying. She began to complain that she had been sitting for a long time and it was hard for her to sit, and asked Chen to sing to her, but the artist said that he had no voice or hearing, so he could only tell a story. Chen began to tell the story of how the sword was lost on the boat, but Jia Zijia already knew the story and had told it before. But the ending was different. The girl remembered another ending and began to tell it, how the boatman got 3 swords, a golden, silver, or iron one. But it was not the same. The girl wondered what the ending of the story was. The artist said that the boatman asked you where your hands came from, that he let the whole boat go to pieces, and he laughed. The girl laughed too and turned away. Chen approached Zhao Jiji, turned her to him and said that she smiled, and it was very beautiful and expressive, her smile disarming. The girl replied that he was really rude, and in response she heard that Chen hoped she would smile more often. Zhao Jiji told the story to her assistant and asked if it was over. Zhuer asked if Chen was interested in Zhao Zheizhai, but she denied it. She hesitated and said she wasn't thinking about him. She said that she left a trace of balsam on his hand. The next time they met, she wanted to find the trace of the flower and bring him out in the open. The next time they met, Gigi offered Chen tea and gave him a cup, and he took the cup so tightly that she couldn't see what was on his hand. She was staring at his hand, and Chen asked what she was trying to find. Gigi said she didn't know, and the artist replied that he did. She decided to argue with him, but the guy said he was guilty. Chen stood up and asked for her hand. Gigi gave him her hand with a flower on it. Chen showed his hand and asked if it was still there. He asked permission to give her a small gift as an apology. Then there was a misunderstanding in the Temple of the Weaver. The temple has long been looking for someone who will hide behind the curtain and listen carefully to the girl's wishes, and then write letters of good luck for them. At this time, he was painting a flower on her hand. He was just writing the messages instead of the weaver. If she was real, she would have written them too, so it can't be considered a trick. Jeji asked why she got a negative reading then. Chen said that he had finished the portrait and would try to finish it as soon as possible. Teiji asked Chun if the artist was a fraud, but the assistant said that to finish the portrait, shadows needed to be applied and it would take half a month. Jeji could not wait that long. The palace was preparing for a holiday. The assistant's mother said that if the drawing of the balsam flower lasts more than 7 days, then she has found her betrothed. The girl asked the mistress not to miss her happiness. Jeji came to the weaver's temple, but the boyfriend was not there. She gave gifts to the weaver and started talking to her. Zhao Jiji asked for a good husband for herself. She asked from the bottom of her heart. The head nun came in, saw that Jiji had come, and she called her assistants to catch her and send her away till that she would not do anything again. Chen grabbed Jiji, and together they ran away from the nuns of the temple. Jiji began to look at the boy with admiration. The couple ran out onto the road where many paper tubes with wishes written on them were burning. Chen said that she could ask the weaver for happiness here. In this place she would definitely hear her wish. The girl was outraged that he was listening to her and went to make a wish. But her wish was different than in the temple. Here she asked for health and strength for her father and the people. Jiji asked what Chen himself wished for, and the boy replied that her dream would come true. The girl returned home. A woman from the emperor's court was waiting for her, and she scolded her for going out and walking around, not knowing where and with whom. She also told her that the emperor had seen her portrait and that Zhao Jiji should go to live with the emperor's court. She had to marry him. The girl refused, but it was not up to her to decide. Jiji was locked up in the house. Jiji would receive her portraits, and they would throw them through the window. Jiji asked Zhuer, her assistant, to see Chen one last time. The assistant asked her not to be caught by the landlady, and the girl was to hide the arrows that were in her room along with the portraits and poems that Chen had sent her. Zhao Jiji went to the temple, to the road where she had made her last wish. Her gaze stopped on the butterflies. Chen appeared and said that he was jealous that she was looking at them and not at him. They hugged each other. The couple realized that they loved each other. Jiji said that she would marry the emperor, she would help her father in running the country. She came to him to say goodbye, but she is in love with an artist who has no influential family, no merits, the most ordinary lover in this life. Zhao Jiji asked him to take her away, to run away together. The guy kissed the girl. He held a cloth in front of her face. Jiji fainted. When she woke up, it was already morning. The emperor's guards came to the Zhao family's house, and it turned out that the emperor had gone to the temple to pay respect to his deceased relatives, and when he was returning, he was hit by a poisoned arrow, which was fired from their house. The house was searched. The same arrows were found in the house as the one that was shot at the emperor. The girl asked for an investigation, as the arrows found by the guards were just for fun, but it turned out that they were not arrows for fun, but sharp arrows that could kill. The owner of the house was asked to explain why this happened. The general yelled at the girl who had the arrows. His wife also did not stand up for the girl, but yelled at her in front of the guards that she was not grateful for everything the family had done for her. The general asked the commander to investigate that the arrow was not fired by the Zhao family, but by the girl they had raised, and that they should punish her. That if they found out what really happened and who shot the arrow, the general would be the first to know. He apologized for disturbing the family. The guards took away the maid who had the arrows. Zhao Jiji returned home and saw that Shu'er, her assistant, was being led away by the emperor's guards. She immediately rushed to the maid. Jiji came to her father. He hit her and asked her about the arrows that almost killed the emperor. The general said that in a couple of days she would become empress. She has to save the family for her father's sake. A maid must die because of her. She must continue to do everything she can to make the emperor forgive her family. Zhao Jiji entered the emperor's court. The girl became an empress. In the emperor's room, the bride heard the voice of her beloved. It turned out that her lover was the emperor. The girl was angry with him for doing this to her, deceiving her, pretending to be an artist, and not the emperor he should have been. While he was painting, men from her family were dying on the battlefield for the empire. The couple quarreled on the first night. The emperor left his wife's room. The emperor said that if the girl continues to feel that she was used, then who will care about the other one? Zhao Jiji came to the emperor to see the charter of her family's grant. The emperor approved the charter and the girl's family would be rewarded. Zhao Zizi wanted to go home to see her parents, but the emperor forbade her to, saying that since she was the empress, she could not leave the court as soon as she wanted. So she could invite her parents to the imperial court for a few hours. The wife said that her assistant was very attached to her parents, and she should go out to see them, but the emperor said that no, he was well aware of Jeji's agreement with her father and would not let the girl and the servants who had come with her to the court go anywhere. Instead, the emperor scheduled a reception at the painting department where they would show their feelings. The girl was furious. The painting department was painting a picture of a young family. The wife began to be capricious, saying that she was tired and hungry, and the emperor ordered lunch to be served so that his wife could eat. The portrait was finished. The girl, happy that she would no longer have to come to pose, said she was going to the butler's office, but the emperor said that she would come to the office more than once, as they had to paint portraits for different occasions, which would take a long time. Jiji was angry, and the emperor enjoyed seeing her anger. All the servants said that their feelings were sincere and the young family loved each other. Zhao Jiji thought that the emperor was planning something against her father. The empress had spoiled the paintings that the emperor had painted for the people. The emperor decided to repaint all the paintings overnight, but he had not yet decided what would happen to the culprits. Jiji asked her assistant to deliver a letter to her father through the commander, but the girl failed to do so. Jiji met with Zhai, the girl who lived in Zhao's house and whose arrows were found. The girl told him that the money from the sale of calligraphy written by the emperor goes to help the victims. General Zhao arrived at the court. Jiji heard her father offer his man to the emperor as a bodyguard instead of the one who was with him when he was shot. But the man said that he was a good and loyal aide and that he did not need anything else. The emperor asked the general for money to help the victims, but the general did not give a positive answer. He would only be able to give an answer in 2 days. The general spoke again about the poison arrow and said that he had invited a doctor who understood this. The emperor saw that his wife was listening to their conversation. Jiji thanked him for the fact that Zhai was alive. The emperor asked his wife to leave. The emperor's assistant shot an arrow at him on his orders. General Zhao took over much of the governments of the country. He was callous to the victims and did not care about them. The young empress took care of the emperor. She asked him to be treated, what the country would do if he was ill. The answer was that her father took good care of the country, and it was strange that he was still called the emperor. And she is the empress of the Zhao family, not his empress. The girl thought he still loved her, but the emperor replied that she had a very high opinion of herself. Zhao Jiji began to remember the best moments with him. The emperor moved his wife to a country house. A commoner came to the emperor, one of whom he had helped. He wanted to be useful to him in some way. The commander, a friend of my father's, came and said that there would be an uprising of rebels who would kill everyone in the imperial court. And it was good that she would be traveling on the road and they would help her escape so that she would not be killed. She lied to her husband that she was leaving. When the emperor saw her, he was dissatisfied with his wife's actions. Jeji put a cloth to his face and he fainted. The girl admitted that he was her beloved, and he should be fine. All his wishes should come true, no matter where his beloved is. She would give him what he wanted, so that there would be prosperity and peace in the country. They will meet in the next life. A butterfly appeared in front of the girl, and she followed it. When she reached the threshold of the palace, an arrow hit her. Zhao Jiji died. The emperor was woken up by his commander, and the traitor was stopped. The emperor rushed to look for his wife. He saw his dead wife, hugged her, screamed, and remembered the first time he saw Ji Jai in the temple, and fell in love at first sight.